Hi everyone. It's nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're watching us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, it's so glad to have you. It's Thursday, and you know what that means, yeah? Africa Thrive Live. So I'm really glad to see you. In case you haven't interacted with us before, my name is Naomi Kirungu of AMI, and I'll be your host today. But these conversations have always been about you. So please, on the comment section, write to me, tell me who you are, what business do you do, where are you tuned in from. Yeah, the purpose of these conversations has always been to sort of network as entrepreneurs from across the continent, find out what are people doing, and just be inspired and learn. Yeah, so I'm really excited. So write on the comment section, and I'll give you guys shout outs. So I'd like to see what business do you do and where are you tuned in from. Yeah, so um, as you do that, allow me to introduce us to you in case this is the first time you're interacting with AMI. Yeah. So AMI, or African Management Institute, we exist to enable ambitious businesses from across the continent to thrive. And now most of us know that SMEs are sort of like the people who employ a majority of people in this continent. Yeah. We support families, we employ young people, we impact society. So our mission now is to support SMEs to be able to generate revenues and grow their revenues. Yeah. So we have 5 main programs that you could plug into to for us to be able to support you. Allow me to quickly take you through them. We have the AMI Business Survival Boot Camps. So these are short programs. They're just 2-week programs, and we have 2 topics for you to choose from, or 2 tracks. So the first topic you could enroll for is the cash flow management and scenario planning, the one you're seeing on your screen. Yeah. So here, just like the topic says, we take you through cash flow forecasting to be able to get the most runway for your cash. We take you through scenario planning, how to plan for worst case, middle case, best case scenario. Yeah, just to be able to get next steps for your business. So it's a 2-week program. Then we have another topic that you could do, or another track. That one is called the Reboot and Adapt Your Business. Yeah. So it's what you're seeing on the screen. So this is basically innovation within the new normal. So if you're thinking of, okay, my customers have been disrupted, I need to look for a new customer stream, we help you think through that. If you're thinking, okay, my product or service has really been disrupted, I need to rethink that. So we help you think through product or service innovation, just as you open up your business in this new normal. If you're thinking about creating new things, this is the boot camp for you. Yeah, so those are the boot camps. Then second, we have the Survive to Thrive program. So this, think of it more of an extension of the boot camp. It's a 6-month program, so we really handhold you, and we go into many more topics. Yeah, we look at adapting your operations, managing or leading people. We look at your finances at more in depth. We look at your customer and markets at more in depth. Yeah, so thanks to a development partner, actually, we are able to offer this program, which was usually paid for, at full scholarships. Yeah, but it's for a very limited period. Actually, the scholarships close tomorrow. That's 10th of July. Would you believe that? Yeah. So we are particularly encouraging female entrepreneurs to apply. I know this is a busy period for women entrepreneurs. You have your team, you have your family, homeschooling, and all that. But don't think of this more of another responsibility or something else we are coming to. I have to attend class. No, it's very self-paced. So if anything, we are coming to help you put structure and system for your business to be able to run more efficiently without you being too hands-on. Yeah. So we particularly encourage female entrepreneurs to apply. So if you're a woman entrepreneur, please apply. If you have women in your network, or if you're a man and you have women in your network or relatives, really encourage them to apply. We really want to support businesses to just survive this period, because we know SMEs are the most vulnerable at this particular time. Yeah. So that's Survive to Thrive. You have until tomorrow to apply for the full scholarships. Then we have our weekly reflection and meditation sessions. Yeah. So if you haven't done meditation before, don't worry. It's not so creepy. It's just clearing your mind. Yeah, you know, as entrepreneurs, we carry so many responsibilities. So our resident psychologist and co-founder Jonathan Cook does these sessions. So you're able to it's a great way to just unpack, and we have the meditations available on our app. So it's a great way, 30 minutes to start your day or end your day, and they are particularly tailored for entrepreneurs. Yeah, so if you haven't tried meditation, this is a great one. Yeah. Then fourth, we have our newsletters. So we have a team that sits. All we do is look for resources, funding opportunities, anything relevant to SMEs in this continent. We put them in this newsletter, and we send it out every week. So you could subscribe to get news, relevant news, funding opportunities, anything that's out there. It's called Thrive. Yeah. And then last but not least are these conversations that we've been having. Believe it's been almost 12 weeks now. It feels like just the other day. So Africa Thrive Live. So we do this every Thursday. Yeah. And we come to network as entrepreneurs. We come to learn. We come to get inspired. And these conversations are for entrepreneurs. And sometimes we bring in partners to help us, or experts, so to speak, but it's really, we want to just have real conversations about entrepreneurs. And we do them every Thursday. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn or Facebook, please turn on your notification. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe. And next time we go live, you'll be able to sort of get notified. Yeah. So we're really excited. And to plug into any of those programs that I've told you, and guys, all these things are available for you for free. So it's sort of like just a pool of resources waiting for you. Go to our website, africanmanagers.org/together, and you'll be able to see all the things that I've talked about today. Yeah. But like I said before, I really want to get to know who my co-hosts are, because we're going to have this conversation with you. So continue to write to us and tell us where you're tuned in from. What are some of the things you want to hear? What does your business do? So that we can have this conversation together. Yeah. So I see Andrew, he's watching us on YouTube. He says he runs a business called Destiny Farms Uganda, and it's a great platform. Thanks, Andrew, for joining the conversation. And we look forward to hearing more about Destiny and what you're doing. Yeah, so keep the conversations coming. So let's start the conversation today. We're talking about agribusiness, and you know, more than half of the people living in this continent are partly or fully their livelihood depends on this industry. I personally grew up, my parents were farmers, and I think in Africa it's very popular to hear someone within your family or someone within your network is a farmer, or that's how you grew up. Yeah, so it's a very, very critical industry, and we want to talk about it today. And we want to talk about it in the sense of what are some of the challenges, where has innovation happened, what's next for the sector. And I know agribusiness is a buzzword. The word that we pretty much know was agriculture, but now we talk about agribusiness, and it's basically just the business of agricultural production. And I think it's basically the business of putting food on the table for people. And we look at an industry that has created millions and millions of jobs, from sort of just the farmers who are tilling our fertile African soil, to now the new techie innovation agriculture business companies that are coming to sort of make production more efficient, make distribution more efficient. So we want to look at all that, yeah? And we want to look at what are the challenges people are facing. Like I said, we want to look at what are the inefficiencies. And we know these have been compounded by COVID, but we want to look at what opportunities there, because I think this is an industry that has emerged to be quite resilient. Yeah, like I said in one of the previous lives, if because I'm based in Kenya, if you walk around the streets of Nairobi, it's now not uncommon to see sort of makeshift kiosks on people's cars. They've turned them into kiosks and they're selling food. Yeah, so and when you talk to these people, and so many people have interviewed these people, there are people who are in different industries like hospitality. Now they're turning to selling food. So it's a very resilient industry, because come war, come anything, people will always eat. Yeah, so we want to just learn more about the industry. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're in this industry, or if you're a manager in this particular industry, or you're sort of just a part-time farmer, like many, you sort of have a side hustle where you do some farming, or whether you just simply a consumer and want to know where does your food come from, this conversation is for you. Yeah. So I'd like you to write on the comment section, like I said before, tell us what your experience has been. What do you think is next for this industry? What questions do you have? What are some of the things you're expecting us to talk today so that it's the most value for you? Yeah. So to have this conversation alongside you, our audience, let me invite my guests today. First, I'd like to introduce Sunday Silungwe. So Sunday is the co-founder and director of marketing and communications at Good Nature Agro in Zambia. And he's an agripreneur. He's been able to raise money for his business. So we'll talk more about that. So help me welcome Sunday. Let me just add him.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sunday. It's great to have you. Please introduce yourself. Tell us more about you, about Good Nature Agro.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I hope you can hear me clear and you can see me clear.
Yes, perfect.
Like you've rightly put it, my name's Sunday Silungwe, and I am one of the co-founders at Good Nature Agro. So Good Nature Agro is a social enterprise that works with small-scale farmers in Zambia. We aim to move them from poverty and into the middle class. So right now we're working with over 4,000 small-scale farmers here in the eastern province of Zambia, but we've now cut across the country as well. So we look at farmers as a holistic package. So what we've done is we've devised a seed company that grows only with the small-scale seed farmers. So you can imagine us as if you know some big names, some big seed players in the market, you would think of the Monsantos, the Seedcos, and all these other big names. All these work with larger commercial farmers, basically producing with these commercial farmers. So they would work with a 500-hectare commercial farmer. We choose to do somewhat of the opposite and somewhat against the norm. So we actually work with 5,000. We would work with 5,000 small-scale farmers instead of 5,000 hectare commercial farmer. So each one of them would own a hectare each, and that's what they're producing seed on. So we introduce trainings for them. We entrust them with a seed loan, which they can pay back with seed. And then everything that they produce in excess is what we buy and sell. So this is what we've been doing for the past 6 years here in Zambia, and I'm delighted to be part of this panel and looking forward to the full conversation.
Wow, thank you for that, Sunday. And it's really exciting how you're supporting farmers, and it will be good to sort of just hear from other farmers in Zambia. Have you heard of Good Nature Agro and how to plug in? So we're really looking forward to that. I want to add the second guest, Caleb Karuga. So Caleb is the founder of Wendy Farms, and Caleb in Kenya is actually an agripreneur champion. He coined a popular slogan, which is a Swahili hashtag called Ukulima Sio Shamba. So loosely translated, that means farming is cool. So he really champions young entrepreneurs to get into farming, and he's a farmer himself. So help me welcome Caleb, everyone. Remember, we are using the emojis, love hearts, everything on your screen to welcome people. So thank you, Caleb. Caleb, if you can hear us, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. If you can hear me, my name is Caleb Karuga. I'm a poultry, I'm a horticulture, I'm a fish farmer, beekeeper, and my latest baby goats. And now get into dairy goat farming. I also do consultancy for corporates and individual clients who are interested in getting into the agriculture sector, but they don't know how to get into it, because this is my 10th year and I've gone through hell and high water. I have been conned. I have been psyched that this is I'm going to make millions. And it ended up to be a completely different story. So I'm a champion of as many young people in farming and more women, because for the longest time we've looked at women as, forgive me for using this word, but supporting cast in this movie or series called Agriculture. So we look at them as labor. They will offer cheap labor at the farms, but I want to see more and more women taking the leading role, be owning farms, and into the agriculture value chain and earning a decent income. So in a nutshell, that's what I do, and I'm looking forward to fruitful deliberations.
Yeah. Thank you, Caleb. And I love your background and your t-shirt. We got milk. I like that. So looking forward to having that conversation, Caleb. Finally, last but definitely not least is Umunna. So Ife is a program lead at Nourishing Africa based in Nigeria. So help me welcome Ife to this conversation.
Hi, good morning.
Good
Or good
morning, Ife.
afternoon.
Yeah, wherever you are. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit more about Nourishing Africa and yourself.
So I'm Ife Umunna, the program lead for Nourishing Africa. And essentially, Nourishing Africa is a home for 1 million agripreneurs trying to scale up their businesses in order for us to realize this opportunity of us having a self-sustaining ecosystem in terms of Africa being self-sufficient and food secure, as well as us becoming net exporters of food. So for us at Nourishing Africa, what we do and everything that we do is aimed at supporting agripreneurs and their agribusinesses scale. And we do this through various tailored programs and initiatives directly aimed at solving the issues that entrepreneurs consistently state that they have when trying to grow their businesses and help other people in their communities. And this ranges from providing opportunities to funding, providing top and recent funding opportunities, as well as data and knowledge, because as we know, in Africa, and particularly in West Africa, Central Africa, in Southern Africa and in East Africa, it's slightly better, but we really struggle with finding data that is current, that is in this segment. So what we see is that when we're looking for information, the best we can find oftentimes is an FAO stat from 2016, but when we're looking for information, for instance, from 2019, we really struggle to find that information. So what we pride ourselves in Nourishing Africa is to get this information and have it available to entrepreneurs so that they can have the right data and the current data to make decisions as it relates to their business. And we have a range of information and tools on the hub. And another key aspect to us and the way we see African food and agribusiness in general is that we see no reason as to why African food should not be showcased and be as visible to the world as Chinese food or American food or Italian food. So we really pride ourselves in having a food culture page on the hub where we showcase African food ranging from Kenya to Mozambique to Nigerian, Algerian food, as well as people that make them, so cooks and chefs, and really highlight the work and the food and the tradition behind the food that's going on the continent to the world. And that's just a bit of what Nourishing Africa does.
Wow, I like that. Thank you for that, Ife. So my question would actually be to all of us first, and please keep your questions or comments coming. So from where you sit, because like I said before, we've seen sort of like this industry become very resilient. A lot of people are now entering into this industry after their own industries have been disrupted. So from where you all sit, since you've been here doing this for a while, what's your perspective when it comes to agribusiness? What's working, what's not working? Sunday?
Oh, okay. I thought I was muted for a minute there. Okay, so I think there's a lot that you can really enjoy about agribusiness. We are all about farming, and we love it. We love getting to the soil and making sure that the soil returns what we invest in it. So in terms of what is in it for agriculture, basically for me it goes with the passion. A lot of people take it as a fallback plan, but it really can drive economies and has shown that it is it has a lot of economies depending on it. So there's a lot of opportunity in that space. Looking at multiple sectors also just tapping into it. So I'll just talk to something I'm very close at. Agriculture is one of the largest, if not the largest employer in a country like Zambia. And Zambia is slowly becoming and maintaining its status as a bread basket for the Southern Africa. So a lot of people are going into it, not only for the survival aspect of it, but also because they're also looking at opportunities to make sure that the next person has something to eat, and that's turning into business. So what we work on here is a social enterprise. It involves working with some of the poorest of the poor farmers, and it has been opening up the opportunity to actually move not only products. We produce seed, but we're also moving a lot of knowledge. Knowledge that is acquired by the certified college-trained entrepreneurs, and also just young technicians that are going to these communities to train our farmers. But it's also knowledge that is actually being kept in these communities and has shown that it's actually improving lives in these communities. So I'll give you an example of how when we started 6 years ago, we were working on the concept that, for example, maize, which is corn in other places, is a monocrop that everybody is growing. And everyone is growing it for survival purposes. It became so oversupplied to an extent that sometimes when maize prices are released, it becomes a sort of a political issue. But now people are also seeing opportunities to diversify crop options, which is allowing them to sort of look at what, be business minded when it comes to growing some of these crops. And this is why we chose legumes here. They were undersupplied. If they were supplied, the quality was not really that good. So we saw a chance as youths to also come in and work on a concept that can actually draw from some of the strengths that these communities have. So they have access to land, they have been farming most of their lives, and some of these farmers live as a survival means. But for us to actually see it as a chance to move them from poverty, we have to work with that strength. So some of the opportunities that we are using in our social business are in that line, and it's opening up a lot of opportunities. So for example, there are supply chain opportunities where now we're also trying to see value in seeing how we can work on transportation in some of these off-beaten paths. Nobody wants to get into the communities to buy and take on some of the crop. They're worried about perishable crops, or they are worried about losing their stock because of transportation losses. But we're seeing that as opportunities. So it's for me, it's a sector that keeps on giving, and this is why I maintain being in here. I hope I have addressed that.
Yeah, and I really like what you've said about doing it. So it's not just a backup plan, because I think now in reality, a lot of people are getting into it as a backup plan, but getting in there and also not doing it what everyone is doing, and sort of diversifying and all that. So that's so much wisdom, Sunday. Ify, I don't know if you have anything to add in terms of what have you seen has been impacted, what's working, what's not working. Sorry, you're on mute, Ify.
Sorry, I think for us as Nourishing Africa, and what we've seen across our members, because we do have a membership platform, almost 50% of our members during this period had to either shut down temporarily or for the foreseeable future because of COVID-19 and its effects. But what we found that was the companies that did not have some form of tech or innovation incorporated into their business models that really struggled the most, because naturally with the lockdowns and with the stay-at-home orders, they really struggled to continue business as normal, and it really wasn't business as normal. So one thing that was working, and what the businesses that we saw thrive during this period, were those that either had tech and innovation within their business models prior to the pandemic, or were quickly able to pivot their business models. They were able to figure out what was working, or what could work with what they had, or what was easily available to them during that period. And we saw a few companies really do really well during this period, unexpectedly to many people, because they simply found an opportunity within chaos to push forward and to try new things, or to produce or process or retail things that they were not before, to suit the environment that they were in. So I think it really is all about understanding your environment, figuring out how you can use the tools and resources available to you, and I think a lot of the time we sit down and deliberate how we're going to do things, and time is moving. So while I'm not saying rush, I do think that we need to see faster movements in how businesses change or pivot their operations to suit the environment as it's changing.
Yeah. Wow. So I see we have a few questions coming. Victor and Collins, thanks for your questions. We'll get to answer them very soon, because this is about our audience at the end of the day. But before we get that, so keep your questions coming. I want us to talk about sort of like supply chain. So just speaking from my own personal experience, I grew up, my parents were farmers, and I think for a lot of people, yeah. And the problem since then, and I talking to them even now, supply chain is still a big problem when it comes to actual farmers trying to get access to markets. Yeah. And so from where you sit, what have you seen has been the solution, or what do you believe is the solution when it comes to sort of making it a fair play for the farmer? Sunday and Caleb, welcome back.
Okay.
I will get to you in a minute.
Yeah, so I'll just give it from sort of our perspective here.
Yeah.
The agricultural community here is tight knit in all areas, be it commercial farmers, be it the small scale farmers. So I'll just give you like an innovation that we've done is where we give the farmers the sort of the full package, where in enrollment into our program, which we want basically to cater for the larger population of the small-scale farmers here in Zambia, they are assured that there will be a training aspect to them, so which is the knowledge transfer. Then they are also assured of somewhat of an input supply, because most of these farmers will look for inputs almost on a yearly basis. But coming with that knowledge, we also empower them to make sure that you know, they're sort of saving towards goals and being able to have at least an amount of inputs. But then to your question on the supply chain, it is a very collaborative space now. Funny enough, COVID has brought a lot of collaboration in the space. In terms of, like, I was just trying to speak to transportation earlier. There's never been a bigger voice now than there is now. Everybody's trying to find out how they can connect. So from markets, like we are giving the full package where our farmers are assured of the markets for everything that they actually produce, except the crops that we're not basically empowering. And now we are also trying to see the bigger picture and seeing how can we partner with some of these organizations that are able to offtake crops that we're not sponsoring the small-scale farmers for their pieces of land. But then basically the collaborative spirit is there, and it's coming on full force. So there are opportunities in sort of making refined partnerships that allow us to basically see how farmers can have it easy to sell almost closer to their doorsteps. So working in an environment where most of these small-scale farmers are not, you know, I've been to Kenya a few times, and the communities there seem to be a little bit more organized. Over here, farmers are scattered in their areas, but like I said, the sense of community is there. But we're talking about 40 kilometers off the beaten path into these communities, and it's not easy to get a 30-ton or something just slightly smaller there. You have to really work on a way of aggregating, making sure that small bits and pieces of the crop is actually taken up from the community and back, but also making sure that these farmers are actually paid on time and they are able to facilitate their livelihoods after that. When it comes to over here, again, it goes beyond just the logistical errors, the logistical hurdles, but there are also chances for us to collaborate on making sure that certain orders are sort of what's the word I'm trying to look for? Combined, so that the voice of agriculture is actually taken up. We know that there is demand for certain crops, and there is demand as it comes, but sometimes it also helps when people are organized enough. So this is where the push of cooperatives and groups and other organized groups is coming in, but we are also trying to see what other innovations are in there so that the whole supply chain is easy. So that if somebody wants to come and offtake, they have it easy to basically see where the crop is, almost move it. So I like what Ify said. There's a big chance for technology to play a role right now. It's actually ripe. So it makes a sure chance that people are thinking, and it's in these tough times and challenges that you will see a lot of innovation start to spire up. So that would be my 2 cents there.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Sandy. And I believe we'll have Caleb back because I think there are a few questions for him here. He's having internet problems, but we'll have him back in just a few. If before you go on your comments on sort of supply chain, I'd just like to bring the audience for a few. I see Victor, who's Victor Tumwine. He's watching us on Facebook. He's saying, this is great. I'd like to know how agribusiness are integrating quality across their value chains. So maybe I don't know if you'd like to take this question from Victor. How is quality sort of just a way of integrating quality across value chain for food, basically?
I think it does range depending on where you are in the value chain, but I can give, and I think Sunday would be best to answer this, but I can give an example of in Nigeria, Sahel Consulting is engaged in the Advancing Local Dairy Development Program in Nigeria, which was born out of the Nigerian Dairy Development Program. And through this program, which started about 4 years ago, and that was a proof of scale project, which has now become an advanced program and has been born to life. But the purpose of this program was essentially to integrate smallholder dairy farmers, who in Nigeria are typically women, into the formal dairy chain. So in Nigeria, we find that the vast majority of the milk we consume is imported, and it is not fresh milk. And we really wanted to change that, and we thought it was important that, one, we produce the milk that we drink in the country and that we are drinking fresh milk. And at the same time, we were able to help women who typically are seen at the lowest points in terms of access and control of resources within the agriculture and agribusiness in general. So for us, that was how we felt it was important to not only include them in decision making and in the formal value chain and provide some form of quality, but it not only helps those women, but I think it helps. Well, I know it helps the community at large and our country at large, and I think it's projects like this and programs such as this that can be scaled rapidly across the continent that will see us not only provide opportunities for the marginalized and for those that are often not involved in key decision making and profit from the aspects of agribusiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Sandy, I'd like you to take this question from Collins. Collins, he's watching on YouTube. So he's saying, hello, everyone. I'm from Tanzania. Great theme. Great theme. So his question is on digital startups. So maybe you could try take that. One can easily and cheaply prototype. How can one get started in agribusiness and launch a food product in a lean approach? So Sunday, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I look at many startups or many ideas like this as sort of solutions. So for me, it's always looking at how, like, the reason why you're there. So there's got to be a point that has been developed for you to come up with a solution, which actually turns into a business. And I'll just talk from our own experience here. We actually did not start from seed production. We actually started as a technology company, but not technology in the sense that I think Collins is portraying it. We were the old school technology, really trying to develop, storage technologies. So we introduced they call it Pixbag. It's world famous. I think Nigeria and Kenya have it already. So Purdue improved crop storage bags, and then we had a few other technologies that were on top of that. And this was from the pain point of farmers who were losing crop almost 50% of their crop in the fields, and if they bring it for storage, it's actually worse. So we sort of to look at how we can build a business that can allow small-scale farmers to actually get some of these technologies. So it went on from just fixed bags into water pumps, into solar lights, into a lot of products. But then when we started working with the farmers on the ground, the people that had the pain point of storage and all these other problems, we actually realized that the felt need was not those products. The felt need was how they can improve their productivity. Then the minor problem was how they can do the storage. But another big problem was how they can actually earn from what they're producing. So they needed some kind of direct market. So that's when we realized there's a big opportunity to supply quality seed. So I'm going to talk to also the other question. I think that Effie answered. So I think it goes back to seeing that pain point. But in terms of like quality, we actually started that as one of our pillars. Why? It's because most of the African produce market is not really standardized. I would give you an example of what is really close to us here, which is maize. Maize can be bought by anyone with whatever quality it is. But if you add a premium and some kind of terms to it, then the farmers will work onto the quality and make sure they supply you the great thing that they want. So it's what we're doing. So in the seed sector, it's a very quality-driven process. You have to be the seed has to be tested. It has to be taken on many tests basically and certified. And you can't sell it if it's not gone through that process. So now back to Collins's question. I think. So, like I said, one, it goes with the pain point. If you realize the pain point, it's easy to sort of sell what the product or the service that it is that you produce. But then there are a lot of entrepreneurs that reach out to me and say, I have this great innovation, it's this great tool or technology that I want to try out. But the end game is I want to make money and I want to make a living. So I always just go back, say it has to come from passion. So if we wanted as Good Nature co-founders, and I hope my co-founders are listening, would have been billionaires by now. But the truth is, we've got more farmers that need those millions, and that's why we share our cake with them and make sure that we're able to be sustainable to live forward. So there's an issue of understanding who, in this case, the person's pain point is. So it could be your client or the farmer in this case. So if it's a tech-based solution, do they really need it? How does that help? If it's a practical solution, same thing. How are you going to really reach out to the person that you're going to sell it out? Because these are the people that are going to either pay for the product or the service. Then they should really be, willing to pay for it. So. And then, depending on the economy that you're in Zambia, it's really easy to start a business. You can register a business in a few minutes, but the truth is, to run a business, that's a whole different ballgame. I think Caleb was trying to talk about, how he's gone through the phase of being duped and all that kind of stuff. It's true. You have to. It's like almost like you earn your ranks through going through some of these challenges, and believe me, it never stops. This is year 6 for us, and I thought we'll probably, if you saw me at year 1 thinking of year 6, I was thinking about how all the great things that can happen in the world would happen. The truth is, so much has changed, and you have to really have a personalized and emotional connection to your business that allows you to actually be flexible. It allows you to receive feedback and be able to pivot when it's needed, to be fragile enough to bend certain aspects of the business. So you say, this is our core side of things, of course we'll keep our values, but if the business had to survive so that we change certain things, we have to do it. So one small example I'll give is, we run a seed company. So Good Nature Agro is the umbrella company. So it has Good Nature Seeds. But then a lot of our clients were saying, you've got great products, you've got great legumes, and all these are awesome. But the truth is, we really need to invest in them more so that we can actually also sell them. So we have a big market problem. How do you help us? So we came up with what's called Good Nature Source, which is in our third year pilot this year, which is basically a sales initiative. So if a bulk customer, a farmer comes into us and says, I'm buying this for bulk, and we look at how economical it is, we can actually help connect that farmer or the bulk customer to another a client that wants to buy and take their crop. So that is not in our DNA as Good Nature. If you look at us from the beginning, we had to bring in that because it's value. So whenever value is created, for me, that's an opportunity to turn that into a sustenance opportunity. So back to Collins's question is, you really have to see what the opportunity is. You have to create the value. You have to really make sure that it's something that will last and it's being helpful to the person that you're creating it for. So it's a business when it's a solution.
Yeah, and we talk it in our industry, we always say start with the prospect, not the product, because at times you can be so fascinated with your product, but if it's not what the customer wants, it doesn't matter how good the product is. So start doing the research. So that's great. I'd like to get a question here or comment, and maybe it feeds into Nourishing Africa, from G1 on YouTube. He has a comment. He's saying, never rely on China. They cheat poor farmers by providing cheap farming chemicals and farm tools. Africa needs agility, awakening, and alertness. China are exploiting fertile land of Africa. So I don't know if you have, I believe his sentiments are shared by a few. I don't know if you want to comment on this and maybe say more about how your business sort of feeds to that.
So I think even apart from China in particular, I think there's no reason why we shouldn't rely on ourselves as Africans. There's nothing that China or any other country outside of Africa is bringing to Africa that we should not be able to produce or manufacture or process ourselves. And I think on that end, it leads back to what at Nourishing Africa we are trying to do, which is just the idea of being self-sustaining from farm to fork. And I think the key thing that we need to figure out as agripreneurs, as key individuals in the agribusiness sector is, how do we ensure that from farm to fork we are producing, processing, transporting, consuming, retailing our goods to our people ourselves without the help of those outside of our continent. And when you look, there are various components to it. We need to figure out how we can ensure that we process more on the continent, because historically we would produce the raw goods, send it abroad, and it would come back at 3 times the cost. And we do not have a history of processing our own goods, and we need to see more innovation and more of in the inclusion of local processing in our individual countries and as a continent as a whole. And then we also need to figure out how we can ensure that we create shorter value chains to ensure that we're getting the produce quickly, more efficiently from start to end. And I think overall, I don't think it's just China alone. I think we really need to figure out how we can cater to ourselves, for ourselves, by ourselves.
Yeah, and I think this situation or this season we are in has made us to sort of look more inward. And Ify, I have a follow-up question to that, which comes to what's in a lot of people's minds now, access to finance or funding. Sunday, I know you've raised investment by yourself, but maybe if you could go before Sunday gives us his take on it, how he was able to raise money. Let alone just agribusiness, even just general entrepreneurship, raising money is hard. It's not the easiest thing to raise money, be it loan or equity. So from your experience, Ify, because I know you do facilitate with Nourishing Africa companies to be able to raise funding, what have you seen the businesses that successfully raise funding do? What opportunities are there?
So if you were to go to nourishingafrica.com/funding, we have a full page of funding opportunities that is probably 30 pages long. And by saying this, I'm saying that funding is not scarce. There's not a lack of funding. I think the issue is those that are seeking funding. And the first issue is that most people seeking funding don't particularly know what kind of funding they need for their business at the time and the stage of their business. And that is the first issue. So it's the idea of becoming financially literate and understanding this is the kind of funding I want, this is the kind of funding I should stay away from in order for my business to grow. The second part of that is that once you've identified the type of funding you need for your business, you need to be financially ready, investment ready. And in saying that, oftentimes we speak to entrepreneurs and we ask, do you have your audited financial statements from the previous year? And many of them will say no. And at that point, we need to understand that those who are giving financial assistance and capital need those kinds of information and data and financials in order to provide financing. So you need to have your ducks in a row, your books in order before you seek financing. And that's why we see the same people getting financing from the big players, because they are well aware of what they need, how they need to do it, how they need to structure their proposals, how they need to package their business to get these financing. So I think the first step is financial literacy. You need to know how to put your ducks in a row and have your papers in order and have your finances audited and so forth in order to even seek financing and get your foot in the door and be one of the people who are in line to get the financing that you require.
Yeah. Falukun on Facebook is asking, please mention the funding site again. So do you want to say that again?
So www.nourishingafrica.com. And then if you go to the funding section, it's at the top in bold, you'll be able to find a list of financing according to your business. Whether you're looking for investment capital, whether you're looking for grants or loans, we have a range of them, and you can filter via your country, so you're not scrolling through multiple funding opportunities that are not available for your country or for your value chain or for what you want.
Yeah. Sandy, I know this question is in a lot of people's minds. How are you able to raise money? How much money did you raise, if you can tell us? What works from the real ground experience? What works, what doesn't work?
I'm more than happy to answer those questions. I'll be a little bit minimalist just to, for the sake of process on some of the questions. I'm pretty sure you know which ones, but more than happy to say we have raised, and to be honest, some of the best ingredients for raising money is not to sort of say personalize it. So Sunday did not raise money, but I would say Good Nature raised money. And why I say this is because it takes a team to basically raise money, and it takes a team that's driven with an idea that they really can back day and night. So it takes a lot of sleepless nights. Like Effie has put it, if you have it easy, I think it's become, I'll be honest with you, it's become more easy to raise the bigger we become than it was when the start. Because in the start, you always feel like there's always something on the list that you're forgetting. But like I've said, I've had a great team. So Carl, who is our current CEO and my co-founder, is somebody who is pretty good when it comes to anything finance. Kellen, who is also another co-founder, an amazing person, and we've built a good team that has had it easy for us to make sure that our raises are done. So we just raised, we just basically closed our Series A round. In the past, we've raised convertible notes, and we've gone through everything from grants, basically, to what they call the 3 Fs: family, friends, and foes. I think every business given a chance should definitely go for the 2 grants and the FFF. So basically, what I would say is, I think your question was what works and what doesn't. Like if you put it, just have everything ready. So for me, people, I think I have the notion that investors don't just invest in any business. They basically invest in the idea, but more than the idea, the people behind the idea. So we've been a coordinated group of founders plus our team that is really invested in this business from the get-go. And beyond that, we know what passion we have for the small-scale farmers. So again, to Ify's point, it's important to know what kind of funding you're looking for. In this case, we've been fortunate to work with impact investment. And we have a lot of basically investors in that space. And like I said, the people aspect is very important. They see beyond us as well. They look at also the small-scale farmers that we work with. And just as an FYI, we love Nourishing Africa, and we are part of it. And we basically, I would really sort of send all entrepreneurs that are watching and those that might watch this in the future, just check out their site, and they'll really funnel you well. So going back to your question, funding, you think is, I would say something that's a bit controversial. It's easy. Just put everything in order. And then you really have to show what you want to use it for. A lot of people think it's the next million and that's it. And a lot of small entrepreneurs would say that. You just need funding. You don't really need the capital to start with. You need the idea. Ideas built the world. There's one entrepreneur friend that I have here who always says, you know, given a chance, if all the Bill Gates, the Zuckerbergs of this world, if they were to give money to the whole world so that we all become billionaires, in 3 months, all the money will go back to those guys because they have the idea and we have the impetus to spend on those ideas. So it all goes back to that. So people invest in the ideas and the people, and you have to really be strategic enough to make sure that your funding list is ready. So if you mentioned audited financials, you have to have your procedures ready. You have to be correctly incorporated. You don't need to have any fishy business. You have to basically have an open book policy. So one thing that we're actually happy about and we are enforcing at Good Nature is the policy of basically having an open book management, where all the staff, especially management and also sort of associate level and everybody else, has access to some control of information. And they are able to know how the company is doing, whether it's doing great or it's doing bad. And those are the people that represent you. In our last raise, which was the biggest one, I think I only spoke to investors a few times. Most of the times we're speaking to the team, our finance team, our associates, and everybody else. And we are closing. So I know I haven't answered on the money, but for now, just skip that one and just say Good Nature has raised, and it's been an awesome journey.
Yeah, Sunday, on a light note, you said you're not doing fishy business, but
yeah,
pun intended for fish farmers, I guess. There's a
I like that.
Caleb, I'd like to bring Caleb in, but before I do that, unfortunately his internet was really off, but I'd like him to just give a remark before he goes. There's a comment here, if I'd like you to take on. I see we have so many comments and questions, and we're trying to answer them. And this is about you, the audience, not us, so we will get to them. There's a question here from Brenda watching on YouTube. She's saying, SMEs investing in agri have a challenge with modern agricultural farm inputs, given the fake products in the market. What do you advise?
I think one thing, like any other business, is doing your homework. And there is information. It might not be the easiest to find. It might not be just one Google click away, but there's information on where you should source credible inputs, where you can source credible mechanics and so forth. So when people discuss things like fake goods or poor inputs and so forth, there are credible sources. As Sunday said, there are credible seed producers across the continent. There are credible input providers. There are credible processors. So you need to do your homework before engaging in anything. And I think the issue with people entering agribusiness is that, because our forefathers did it and they didn't have this information, we'll be fine. No, we won't. We really need to do our homework. We need to research what is happening before engaging in it. And if that means calling 5 people that you know that are involved in the same sector or value chain, call them and ask them, do you know these people? How was their experience? It's the same way when we engage in informal trading or informal engagements, we ask people to verify other people. When we employ people, we ask for references. We need to do the same when it comes to purchasing inputs, when it comes to mechanization, when it comes to anything you're doing. Ask other people if they know the people. Do the research. Ask if it's been used. Ask for the track record. Go online. Do they have an online presence? Is what they're doing, does it have impact? Are they new? If they are new, the people behind this startup, who are they? What are their track records? Do they come from, do they have the experience needed in order to help you? Things such as that. So I think we need to rethink the way we do agriculture from start to finish, and we really need to do our research. It's that simple.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Ify. I'd like to, and I think it's across businesses. Yeah, we can't overemphasize the fact that you have to know your customer, you have to know your sort of value chain from start to finish, do your research. I don't think we're getting off this notion that, like Sunday said, agribusiness is something you do on the side, or it's a backup plan, or you can be lazy about it. It still deserves like you going all the way. So I'd like to bring in Caleb. I know he can't hear us, but I just want to acknowledge the fact that he was in the farm, like he was giving us sort of that direct feed. So Caleb, I know you can't hear us, but just go ahead and tell us what do you think is next for agribusiness? I know I sent a message to you. Let's try this. But I see we can still see. I think he wanted to sort of give us a tour with his goats and everything, but I think his internet connection is really bad. We'll try one last time, and then if it's off, we'll definitely have him back for part 2 of this conversation. So I want to ask Sunday, there are a lot of questions coming in for you, and if you could just briefly answer them so that we can get to them as fast as we can.
Sounds good.
There's a question here from John. Yeah, there's a question from John Akbola. He's watching on LinkedIn. So John is asking, what are the main bottlenecks from your experience that you see as limitations for you thinking up agribusiness or remaining in agribusiness? And how are you working to address these issues, I guess, with your farmers, the young ones particularly? Anyway, from the question, it will also be great to host or link Sunday to our AGC Future Farm Zambia. So maybe you could answer the question about what you're doing with the youth.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I'm a youth, by the way.
We can see that.
A lot of people guess me, I think, in the other direction, and I like that. It's gotten me places. Now, going back to that question, I think some of the bottlenecks, I think I'll just speak from the local experience here, is that we have a lot of what we call makeshift businesses, where they want to make money quickly, and usually a lot of youths will just say, I want to become the next billionaire in agriculture, I want to become the next billionaire farmer, or whatever it is, which is awesome, which is great, but I think everything comes with a lot of effort. Remember what I was saying, it's not about the money, it's about the idea. So if you have an idea that is sustainable long enough, and an idea that stands, and an idea that is actually creating value, people pay for it. People would take you to the next million, but it takes a lot of patience, especially in the agriculture sector. There are a lot of factors that are not, they're not just you wake up and it works just that way. I'll give you an example of climate. Every year, one or two of my friends who come up and say, you know what, I hate my accounting job right now. I just want to make the next 1,000 kwacha, the next million kwacha, and I want to go into farming. I say, what do you want to do? And they'll tell me, I want to go into whatever poultry. I want to go into something like this. Say, the question that I usually have is, do you have the heart for it? And most of all, do you have the patience for it? Have you done your research like if you said? It all works that way. You really have to have all the information at your fingertips. It's not going to be remote based. A lot of young farmers have cried because they're trying to split between their job and whatever other activities that they have with a cell phone, you know. They'll be at their homes or in their offices and calling and trying to find out how the goats are doing, how the fish is doing, how the bananas are doing. By the next thing, it's on the market day and they have nothing to sell. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of being there. It takes a lot of practicality to basically work in there. So in terms of limitations, like I think I hope I demystified the bit about funding. It's not always about capital. You can always start with the idea. The idea will bring you closer to what can fund it. And sometimes you need to really prove what the product is for somebody to buy it. And going back again to the pain points, there should be a pain point you're solving for people to pay for it. So when it comes to a lot of limitations, is that so there's climate limitations, there's supply chain limitations, they're also there. I know of farmers that have been promised for a market, they do their nice homework, and then the next minute they're trying to buy. COVID hits, and all these companies that were hoping to buy are not buying because they're saving for the next big thing. So it's a lot that I could say from that perspective. But it's always important to be agile, to be adaptable. Basically, situations come, and you have to be able to maneuver them or basically overcome them.
Yeah. And my former mentor used to say, money doesn't follow a vacuum. You sort of have to get out of the vacuum, build traction, and then money comes. So just getting out of that box around access to funding, maybe just build traction organically, and then the money.
That's right.
The money. Ify, there's a comment here from Elaine Durat on Facebook. She's saying, love Ify's comment about keeping it in Africa. I would like to hear the team's opinion on heritage seeds from Africa versus GMO. Ify, do you want to take this?
I think Sunday would be well suited to this question.
Seed is an investment, right? I'm more than happy to talk about seed. So there's being in the seed sector, and by the way, I'll just say this: I think I'm the closest thing to what you would actually call an entrepreneur. I'm still in the entrepreneurial sector. Why I'm saying this is because I'm running an agricultural business, but I'm not an agronomist. I'm not close to agriculture. It's something that I was just passionate about. I'm actually a development economist. So I get into this argument a lot on about heritage versus GMO, and I'll just give it from the perspective that we're at. So in my company, we are working with what's called open pollinated varieties, and these varieties are basically public, so you can get them from our local institutions here, and they are not GMOs. So we are, I would say, in Zambia, we are not, we've barred the use of GMOs. So there's no company in here that's using GMOs. But something close to that is what we call hybrid seeds, which is unfortunate we don't have at Good Nature. So fortunate or unfortunate. I feel like there is innovation in the space of seed, but innovation that's restrictive and that could be toxic is innovation that I don't ascribe as Sunday personally. And I've not really been a fan of GMO seeds, but I'm not saying there is something bad to them. I think there's still a chance to sort of breed varieties that can withstand certain pressures or certain climatic problems. But at the moment, with my ethos, I think we are working with small-scale farmers, here in Zambia, and most of those have grown up with growing their varieties of crops. So we haven't really moved from the norm of the seed that they have. So if it's soybean, they're just growing it out of the backyard, as organic as can be. If it's maize, same thing. Beans, same thing. And most of the crops that we grow. So I do think there is a chance on the global space, but of course, there's a lot of manipulation that's there, and I don't think I'm basically the best person to talk to that. But just speaking on our company ethos, we try as much as possible to keep it within the local context, using the local seed and supplying it as is, and that's what's been working for us, and that's what we work with. So otherwise, I do have my respect for innovation.
Yeah. If there's a question here from you, from Rones, keep Rotich on Facebook. So he's asking to Ify for startups. And this is a question we get a lot on Africa Thrive Live. Yeah, funding, marketing, access to markets. So this one is from Rones Rotich. He's saying to Ify for startups who work on projections on their proposals. Are they disadvantaged from commercial loans? I don't know if you get this. I'm getting it to mean maybe equity versus commercial loans, or you already feel disadvantaged when it comes to commercial loans because agriculture is not like other businesses, where there's, maybe I think that's the question. Yeah, that's actually the question. So commercial loans are not really structured from what he sits and feels around agribusiness or agriculture. What do you have to say?
So for us, what we first, just restructuring that whole question, why a loan? Because there are so many funding opportunities that are not loans. There are so many grants available targeted at startups. So when people ask questions about loans, I always ask why? Why a loan as opposed to applying for grants and patient capital that will allow your business to grow without you being worried that you have to repay the loan, you have to continuously be worried about that, as well as scaling a business, which in itself is a challenge. So I would always advise entrepreneurs and agripreneurs to seek funding that, one, is tailored for startups, because there's so many. And I think oftentimes at startups, entrepreneurs are competing with well-established companies that a bank would naturally want to give loans to, because they are sure that they will get return on their investment, or they will get their payments back, as opposed to a startup where it's definitely in the air. So as a startup, look for opportunities that are tailored to your business as a startup, that provides the patient capital or the needs that meets your business. And then I saw another comment about on Nourishing Africa, there's only one Kenyan funding, but if you search by East Africa or all Africa, there are many for startups, there are many for East African and all applicable to all African countries, that range for funding for startups or for well-established companies that just want to scale. So I really think it's about knowing what you're looking for, and I would always advise as Ify to stay clear of loans when there are other options.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. There's a follow-up question for you, Ify, from Leah's Full watching on YouTube. She's saying she's Cecilia from Kinshasa, DRC, working with entrepreneurs as a business incubation manager. So what do you mean by understanding the kind of investment needed? Maybe still lots of questions on demystifying finance.
As a startup, as I said previously, I would not prescribe looking for loans. And I think there is a natural understanding, and I don't know where it might be from doing finance in school, is that you're taught about loans. You might not be taught about grants, you might not be taught about other things, but there are various forms of financing, from investment to private equity to patient capital. We have angel investors, you have grants that are typically available. So for instance, the MasterCard Foundation is well known for providing grants to young entrepreneurs, and they have a big project on youth entrepreneurship, and they provide grants to startups and to well-established businesses run by youth across Africa. So something like that, as opposed to going to a bank and asking for loans, hoping that it's a favorable loan or and has favorable conditions, to me seems less attractive. And looking online, and there are many websites that provide this information, where you can find out what funding is available in your sector, where you can source it, what requirements are needed. And it's also important to know what if you meet the requirements before even applying. And even if you don't meet the requirements, is it by a little or is it by a lot? Because a little might be okay, a lot, we have a problem. So it takes time to go through it, read about it, understand what you're looking for, do the research.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have a second session to answer all the questions, and maybe Caleb would join. But before we end, Sandy, I'd like you to take a final question here from Eliud on YouTube. He's asking, what's your comment on the quality and affordability? Do your customers, I think the farmers that you work with, do they have enough finances or funding to afford? I think it's around your business model. So selling seed to very what do we call them? Very maybe vulnerable. I don't know what you'd call them, but how do you build a business around that?
Wonderful. So what I would say is, like I remember, I think I going back to my question is, you really have to find what the what customer it is. And I'll just tell you this: at Good Nature, customer for us is king. And I'm pretty sure I'm borrowing it from some famous entrepreneur said somewhere. But what I would say is, we really value the customers that we work with. So I would say Good Nature offers a lot of services, but on the product side, the biggest thing that we offer is seed. So for seed, I think it's been used in a lot of adages. It's a real investment. Once you plant it, you're going to get more, and it will nourish you for the future. Nourishing Africa. Now, it will really be. It's really helpful to look at it this way. Most of these farmers have seed that they can basically get from anywhere. And why we encourage the kind of seed that we grow is because not only is it grown by the small scale farmer, so the farmer that we are offering our service to. So the farmer that is in the rural, that's going to earn something out of the seed that they buy. And looking at our model, the farmer that we basically focus and put at the center. So they are our customer on the service side. So if you look at our seed model, our seed motto is basically legume seed grown by the small scale farmer for the small scale farmer. So it actually goes to a second customer who is now the farmer that's purchasing. So in Zambia, inputs like seeds, basically I would say are affordable. Because most of these farmers, I think, looking at a hectare, for example, for soybean, which has become a big thing here, you're looking at 50 kgs. And most of the 50 kgs, farmers would basically purchase it if you put it at a price that's affordable. So we are probably some of the cheapest seed, we sell some of the cheapest seed in the country because it's produced by the small scale farmers, and it's also something that the farmers need. So per 25 kg, which is half of the hectare, we are selling for something like $40 or less, depending on the quarter variation. So that's something that farmers mostly can afford, because the returns on that is easy enough to pay off that cost, and it's something that they can earn a living on. And then if you remember, I said we've realized that we're actually creating value and on our customer side. And this is why we've created a new product which we call Good Nature Source. So we need to source for the markets for some of these small scale farmers so that they earn some money to buy seed or other inputs for the next year and sustain their livelihoods. So most of these farmers, fortunately, are in organized groups. So it could be cooperatives, it could be in an grower organization, but when they are purchasing some of these inputs, they are not buying them as individual farmers, they're buying them as a group. So they've been saving, and we inspire that. They've been putting out a small amount in form of lay buying, and all that is also inspired by us, so that when that time for the purchase of the input comes, they are ready to pay for it and they can afford it. So then it sustains that kind of model. So in terms of quality, we have a lot of quality measures just from the community itself, all the way through our factory and what we sell on the market. So the community has been trained to look at what they're producing as seed. So it's going to help other farmers. So they put in the work to make sure that the quality is done. Then all we do is make sure that it's actually certified for sale on the shelves. And so it undergoes an extra a cleaning process from our end. Then that's what the farmers are paying for, to answer that affordability question. So for us, the customers can afford it, but we don't only cater for small-scale farmers. Another larger segment of our business is what we call commercial farmers, and these are basically growing large tracts of land. And we have a few of them in our network as well, who are both on the farming side, growing for us, and also clients on the other side, which is the purchase side. And we also link those to the markets. So we've got an understanding with a few agripreneurs that are processing some of these crops like soya and groundnuts for oil and beans for canning. Then they offtake, and we link these customers and clients to some of these customers that we're working with.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sunday. And if you're in Sunday, I know I only borrowed an hour of your time. Now we're going to 16 minutes over. I think I'll request to have you back. I know you're busy people, but I always like to sort of squeeze the last question for my audience because we are here for them. So if you could quickly answer this, and it's being brought by Lesedi Nduna of YouTube. He's asking, sorry, I sort of lost it. Here it is. I would like to ask the panel their thoughts about agritourism. Can it be a tool towards sustainable agribusiness? And the reason I wanted us to talk about this is we know tourism, I know we're talking about agribusiness, but tourism is an industry that has been affected. It's a big market for agribusiness, and sort of now exists opportunity to sort of just collaborate, like Sunday said. So I don't know if you want to talk about this in general.
So I think this is an interesting topic, but the one thing that first comes to my mind is we're in a pandemic, and I don't see us moving around the way we used to for a very long time. So I don't think for the foreseeable future this would be a sustainable tool for now, or at least for the next year or two, because even if we do find a cure or vaccine, it's going to take a while for people to feel safe enough to travel the way we used to travel. And it will be hard to start up a business such as agritourism right after a pandemic. I do not see people moving around or even thinking of that form of tourism in that sense. The natural traditional tourism is already suffering, so I would not prescribe that currently. I think there are other avenues to enter agribusinesses, and there are other aspects that need to be paid more attention to currently.
Yeah. So maybe you could give your sort of parting shot of this.
Naomi, I don't know if I could just add something to that. Just to add to Ife, I do think the pandemic period has really worsened it for tourism. But something that has been has been sort of in my mind is this. I'll just give you an example of we were raising, and we are still raising other forms of funding. And one of the bummers at this point is you can't get diligence going with people actually being on the ground to actually see what you're doing. So we have innovated within our space what we're calling a virtual diligence. So in the future, I hope it's something that I can make more virtual and sort of interactive. But at this point, it's just at video phase. So that's innovation in itself, where you're looking at investors, or in this case, tourists, that can actually afford to that can actually look at pay in the sense to view your farm, learn something. There's a lot that's coming up in this space. And I know some other entrepreneurs that have also taken advantage of the pandemic times to also look at how they can do digital learning. So they are holding camps and conferences and trainings online, which are allowing them to basically generate some kind of value, and people are subscribing to all that. So there's still a fighting chance for technology there to sort of look at agritourism as a sustainable too. It might not be big, but it's worth a try.
Yeah, when you said that, I actually had a comment, but I just bit my tongue. I was like, I'm not gonna say it. But what I was gonna say, but now that you've talked, Sunday, let me just give my comments on that. I think there's still opportunity in some way, even when you look at sort of on a local level. In as much as people are at homes, like I sit at home with my son, if I could do something interesting just within our community around,
Yeah.
he gets to learn. Now that we are not learning in school, yeah, he can get to learn more about, in a safe environment, of course, at a local level, learn more about where food comes from, the one that we eat. So I think even in a local level, there's still opportunity for agribusiness. If agritourism, sorry, if he maybe you could tell us your last remark, and also tell us what's next for agribusiness. What after all this that we've taken out of, what would you like to say as you leave?
So I think I saw a few comments, one from Bura Yayi on YouTube that said we need more entrepreneurship in agribusiness. And I think this is a key thing, and this is very close to our philosophy and our ethos at Nourishing Africa. And I would employ people who are interested already in this space, that if you consider yourself a farmer, but not an entrepreneur, I think we need to shift our mindsets from agriculture to agribusiness. We need to see it as not just being sustaining our communities or our households, but as a business. And I would employ people to go on to nourishingafrica.com, join our membership if you're in this space, if you're an entrepreneur trying to scale your businesses or grow or be part of the ecosystem that we want to build in order to transform the sector. And we really see no reason as to why we can't be self-sufficient as a continent and net exporters of food to the world. And as part of what we do, and what is really important to us, is to see you as entrepreneurs grow and service your communities and provide not only jobs and opportunities, but food and nutrients-rich foods to the communities. We have a range of resources and tools, as well as tailored opportunities directly focused on you as an entrepreneur. And I think in terms of what's next, I think we're just going to see a new transformation and revolution of how we do agriculture in the continent. I think the pandemic has been a blessing and a curse. More to me, a blessing in us realizing how we can be self-sustaining and how we can really do more for ourselves, by ourselves, as a continent and as smaller countries, as opposed to a continent, in becoming, ensuring that we can feed ourselves, that we can raise our communities higher and become closer with one another through agriculture and agribusiness.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ify. And I wish my audience was here to give you a big applause, but we'll take the emojis, guys, to work for now. So just thank Ify for her time, the love hearts, the all those things that are on your screen popping. Thank you, Ify, for taking the time, and I'll definitely be in touch for us to do this again, because we have so many questions. And just maybe a quick plug for Nourishing Africa. I'm sure there are some pressing questions here. How can people contact you?
Well, you can email me, Umunna at nourishingafrica.com. You can email info@nourishingafrica. You can go on the site. We're very active on social media. We reply very quickly. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, and someone on our team would be more than happy to engage with you moving forward. I know Sunday is a Nourishing Africa member, and we speak quite frequently. So we'd be happy to work with you and help you grow your business in your communities.
Yeah, thank you for taking time, Ify. Sunday, so you've shared so much wisdom today. What do you think is next for agribusiness?
First of all, I just want to say this. If you have eaten today, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or supper, you should really, really thank the farmer. These are the guys that are breaking their bones and breaking their backs to make sure that they feed a whole lot of us. But if you look at some of the injustices, there are some of the poorest of the poor, and they are really earning much, much less than you could think about. So there's a big chance that Africa can feed the rest of the world. And like Ify said, I think there's a big chance that we can actually sustain our own production within the continent and within our own context. So it's an opportunity for all of us to see what innovation is there. And there's always enough room for an agripreneur. Agribusiness in itself is also something that can really sustain a lot of economies. So what I would say is there's an open call for everyone to just look at and appreciate what is being produced and as being produced by some of these people that are in our context. So if you know a farmer, thank a farmer. If you know a farmer, just appreciate them for what they're doing, because they're actually feeding us. So in the context of Good Nature, we are really trying our best to make sure that we're playing a part, not only in sustaining the world that we're in, because of different issues, climate, the pandemic is upon us. We're also trying to see how we can be innovative in the space so that food supply and sort of seed supply in its context is also sustained in the long term. But most of all, these farmers that are producing it are appreciated to the core. So we believe in farmer, we live farmer, we breathe farmer here, and we would like to basically open it up to everyone else. So if you have any questions, any context, and anything that you think is valuable, I really like the call from Agco. More than happy basically to reach out and help where I can. And yeah, I think that's all. If I add to that, I don't know what else. But I think my mission is always to say the big opportunities in agriculture. We can feed Africa, we can feed ourselves, and that's what it will take.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. And it's very refreshing to sort of hear from an actual agripreneur who's taking the business of food production seriously and sort of very professional, structured, raised funding. It's quite impressive, and I believe you've inspired a lot of people. Yeah. So as we close, thank you, Sandy, for taking time. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to take a few comments. I know we had so many questions. And Rosemary, I know you were very persistent on Twitter, on YouTube. We saw your comment, and you're asking, my business has very, very innovative ideas, but I need help with experts who can put ideas together in form of a business proposal to attract funding. So Rosemary, I'd encourage you to apply for the Survive to Thrive program, and we're particularly keen on women entrepreneurs because we sit with a team of experts to sort of help you in terms of training and bringing your ideas together and putting in those structures for your business. So do apply for that program. And you'll be able to you'll be exposed to that. And also the work Nourishing Africa is doing when it comes to funding, you can go to their website as well. And also, I believe just write to Sunday on social media in terms of some of the ideas that you may have. So I believe that has answered that. I just want to acknowledge Collins on YouTube. He says, great discussion. Thanks, Naomi, Sunday, and Ify. Looking forward to part 2. We'll definitely have a part 2. Caleb, I know, was trying to give us a tour of his farm virtually. We are not giving up, yeah. We are not giving up. We'll definitely have a part 2 to this conversation. So I see Fimelo on YouTube saying, thank you for a wonderful session. Please share your websites. Yeah, so I believe Nourishing Africa have said Sunday is Good Nature Agro, and we are African Management Institute. Rones, he's saying Silungwe Sunday from Zambia is doing very well. So he's just acknowledging that. Wow, so many comments, so many questions. And I just want to thank you guys for being such a great audience. And if you have any pressing questions, write to us. I know Sunday and Ify have given their contacts, and we'll have Caleb back soon. But you could also write to me. My email is naomi@africanmanagers.org. Tell us more about what you want to hear. These conversations have always been designed for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. So I know we had a lot of people in agribusiness who were saying what they want to hear more about that. So we brought in entrepreneurs in that field. We've had conversations about funding. So the people who were asking about that, go to our previous recordings. We had one with investors, equity. We had one with banks, more commercial loans. We've had conversations about off-grid energy. We keep having conversations just around issues that are affecting entrepreneurs, marketing, so much resources that you could watch and also tell us what you want to hear. So this was great having this conversation with you. Just remember, if you would like to be supported in terms of all the programs that I mentioned at the very beginning, go to our website, africanmanagers.org/together. We are really looking for female entrepreneurs. We have full scholarships available for the Survive to Thrive program, and so many resources for all entrepreneurs, all genders, that are free, guys, free. So just go to our website and get advantage of all this opportunity that exists, because we want to see you thrive. We want to see you survive. Yeah. So till next Thursday, thank you for being such great audience. Have a good week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.